What if everything you've been desperately reaching for has been quietly moving away from you? What if the very act of chasing what you want is the exact reason you don't have it? And what if there's an ancient way of being that turns this entire struggle upside down? Think about the last time someone was trying too hard to impress you. You could feel that desperate energy, couldn't you? It probably made you want to step back rather than move closer. Now remember someone who was simply present with you, comfortable in their own skin, not needing anything from you. That's magnetic. That's what happens when the chasing stops. Where are you listening from right now? Are you at home, curled up somewhere comfortable? Maybe you're walking or lying in bed after a long day. If it feels right, share your location below, because this ancient wisdom creates something beautiful when it's shared across the world. Take a moment to settle in. Let your shoulders drop just a little. There's nowhere else you need to be. The Buddha discovered something revolutionary 25 centuries ago. Your suffering doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from how tightly you grip what you think should happen. Every time you chase a feeling, demand a particular outcome, or insist that someone behave a certain way, you create the very tension that pushes away what you're seeking. But here's where everything shifts. When you learn the art of attraction instead of pursuit, life begins reorganizing itself around your peace. Let's discover how. Picture this scene for a moment. You're standing on a beach, holding fine sand in your cupped hands. The grains are cool and smooth against your skin. Now imagine trying to keep every single grain exactly where it is. Your fingers tighten, your palms press together, your whole body tenses with the effort. What happens? The sand slips through the tiny spaces between your fingers, escaping faster the harder you squeeze. But now imagine holding that same sand with open, relaxed palms. Your hands are steady, but soft. The sand rests naturally in the curves of your hands. Some grains might drift away with the breeze, and that's perfectly fine. What remains settles comfortably, held not by force, but by the natural shape of your open hands. This is the secret the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree 2,500 years ago. Life flows most freely to us when we stop trying to control its every movement. Love deepens when we stop demanding it look a certain way. Peace arrives when we quit chasing after it so desperately. Happiness emerges when we're no longer forcing it to show up on our timeline. There's an ancient story about a Zen monk named Banzan who spent years meditating in monasteries, seeking enlightenment through countless hours of formal practice. One day, he was walking through a busy marketplace when he overheard a conversation between a butcher and his customer. The customer asked for the best piece of meat, and the butcher replied, "Everything in my shop is the best. There is nothing here that is not the best." In that moment, Banzan understood something profound. He had been searching everywhere for the best spiritual experience, the perfect moment of awakening. But every moment was already perfect, exactly as it was. His enlightenment didn't come from finding something new. It came from letting go of the idea that he needed to find anything at all. Think about your own life for a moment. Where are you gripping so tightly that your knuckles have turned white? Maybe it's a relationship where you keep trying to change the other person. Perhaps it's a job situation where you're fighting against circumstances beyond your control. Or it could be an image of how your life should look that you're clinging to, even though it's causing you daily stress. The Buddha had a word for this gripping. He called it tanha, which means thirst or craving. But this wasn't the healthy thirst your body feels when it needs water. This was the desperate, never satisfied thirst of always wanting things to be different than they are. The thirst that makes you believe happiness lives somewhere else, with someone else, at some other time. Here's what makes this discovery so profound. The Buddha realized that our suffering doesn't actually come from the circumstances of our lives. It comes from our relationship to those circumstances. Two people can experience the exact same situation: losing a job, ending a relationship, facing an illness, and have completely different levels of suffering based on how tightly they're gripping their expectations. When the Buddha spoke about the Four Noble Truths, he wasn't delivering cosmic judgments or universal laws carved in stone. He was offering a gentle diagnosis, like a skilled doctor who sees your pain clearly and wants to help you understand where it's really coming from. The first truth is simply this: suffering exists. Not because life is meaningless or cruel, but because suffering is woven into the fabric of human experience. You don't need to feel guilty about your pain or pretend it doesn't exist. The Buddha is saying, yes, this hurts, and that's completely understandable. The second truth goes deeper. Suffering has a cause. And that cause isn't your difficult boss, your stubborn partner, or your challenging circumstances. The cause is your attachment to how things should be. Every time you find yourself thinking, this shouldn't be happening, or they should act differently, or life should be easier, you're creating the very tension that hurts. But here's where hope enters the picture. The third truth is revolutionary. Suffering can end. Not because you'll finally get everything you want, but because you can learn to hold your desires differently. You can want things without needing them to happen exactly as you imagine. You can care deeply without drowning in attachment. The fourth truth is the practical part. There's a path to this freedom. It's not a mysterious, complicated journey available only to monks and mystics. It's a series of gentle practices that gradually teach you how to hold life with open hands. To understand how this works, the Buddha taught about the 5 aggregates, 5 different aspects of human experience that we often mistake for our true self. These are form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. When you realize that you are not any of these parts in isolation, but something much more fluid and spacious, you begin to loosen your rigid identification with your thoughts and emotions. Your body changes constantly, from childhood to old age. Your sensations shift moment by moment. Your perceptions alter based on your mood, health, and circumstances. Your thoughts and mental patterns evolve throughout your life. Even your consciousness moves through different states: waking, dreaming, deep sleep. So who are you really beneath all these changing elements? You are the aware space in which all these experiences arise and pass away. You are not your achievements or your failures, not your anxious thoughts or your moments of joy. You are something much more vast and unchanging, the witness of all these temporary experiences. There's a beautiful story about a Zen master named Ryokan, who lived simply in a small hut on a mountain. One night, a thief broke into his hut looking for valuables. Ryokan had nothing worth stealing, so he gave the thief his clothes and said, "I wish I could give you this beautiful moon as well." The thief left, confused and empty-handed. Later, Ryokan sat naked under the moonlight and wrote a poem. The thief left it behind, the moon at the window. Ryokan understood something most people miss. True wealth can't be stolen because it doesn't depend on external possessions. When you're not attached to things, you can't lose what truly matters. The moon, beauty, peace, the present moment, was still there, untouched by the thief's actions. Let's explore what this looks like in your daily life. Letting go doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on things that matter to you. It means learning to act from inspiration rather than desperation. It means caring without clinging, loving without possessing, hoping without demanding. Start with something small. Maybe there's a habit you've been trying to change for months. Perhaps you want to exercise more, eat healthier, or wake up earlier. Notice how much mental energy you've been spending on fighting with yourself about this. Now try a different approach. Instead of forcing the change, create gentle conditions that make the new habit more likely to happen naturally. If you want to exercise more, don't set impossible goals that guarantee failure. Instead, put your workout clothes by your bed the night before. Lower the barrier instead of raising your willpower. If you want to eat healthier, don't shame yourself for your food choices. Simply place a bowl of fruit where you'll see it when you're hungry. Create conditions for what you want rather than forcing what you want. The same principle applies to relationships. Think about someone in your life who frustrates you regularly. Maybe they're always late, or they interrupt when you're speaking, or they don't show affection the way you prefer. Notice how much energy you spend trying to change them through hints, complaints, or silent resentment. What would happen if you stopped trying to change them and started accepting them exactly as they are? This doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or abandoning your boundaries. It means releasing the exhausting project of trying to remake another human being according to your preferences. Often, when you stop pushing against someone, they naturally begin moving toward you. There's a lesser-known story about Master Linji, who was once asked by a student about the meaning of Zen during a time of great chaos in the kingdom. Bandits were roaming the countryside, and people were fleeing their homes in terror. The student asked, "Master, in such terrible times, how can we find peace?" Master Linji pointed to a blind donkey grazing peacefully in a field nearby and said, "Look at that donkey. It doesn't know these are terrible times, so it continues to eat grass and be content. The chaos exists, but the donkey's peace also exists. Which reality will you choose to live in?" The master wasn't suggesting ignorance or denial of real problems. He was pointing to something deeper, that even in the midst of external chaos, inner peace remains available. Your circumstances don't determine your experience as much as your relationship to those circumstances does. The blind donkey couldn't see the chaos, but you can choose not to be consumed by it. This story teaches us that our judgments about situations often create more suffering than the situations themselves. When you label something as terrible or wonderful, you're creating an emotional charge that may not serve you. What if you could respond to challenges with the same equanimity as the donkey, not from blindness, but from a deeper understanding that your peace doesn't depend on external circumstances? Here's a practical exercise you can do right now. It's called the emotional inventory, and it takes just 5 minutes. Take a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. Write down 3 things you're currently holding on to tightly, 3 sources of stress or frustration in your life. For each one, ask yourself these questions. Why am I gripping this so tightly? What do I think will happen if I let go? What part of me is resisting the idea of releasing this? Just the act of putting these thoughts into words begins to loosen their hold on you. You might write something like, "I'm holding on to anger at my coworker because they got the promotion I wanted. Why am I gripping this? Because I feel it's unfair. What will happen if I let go? I'm afraid people will think I don't care about my career. What part of me resists letting go? The part that wants to be seen as successful and valuable." Now you can see the real issue isn't your coworker or the promotion. It's your attachment to being perceived in a certain way. That's something you can work with, something you can gradually release without giving up your ambition or self-respect. Try this letting go meditation. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths feeling your body settle with each exhale. Now imagine you're carrying a heavy backpack filled with all your worries, resentments, and attachments. Feel the weight of it on your shoulders. With each exhale, imagine setting this backpack down on the ground next to you. You're not throwing it away. It's still there, if you need it. But for now, you're choosing not to carry it. Notice how your body feels lighter, how your breathing deepens, how your mind becomes more spacious. Some thoughts might arise like, "But I need to worry about this," or "I can't just let go of something so important." Gently acknowledge these thoughts and return to the image of the backpack resting safely beside you. You're not abandoning your responsibilities. You're approaching them from a place of clarity rather than anxiety. There's another beautiful story about an old temple where a monk was tasked with carrying water from the well to the kitchen every day. He used 2 large pots suspended from either end of a wooden pole across his shoulders. One pot was perfect and held water beautifully, but the other had a crack that leaked water throughout the entire journey. After many months, the cracked pot spoke to the monk and said, "I am ashamed. Every day I lose half the water you carry, making your work twice as hard." The monk smiled and said, "Tomorrow, pay attention to the path as we walk." The next day, as they walked from the well to the temple, the cracked pot noticed something it had never seen before. On its side of the path, beautiful wildflowers bloomed everywhere, while the other side remained barren. The monk explained, "I planted flower seeds only on your side of the path because I knew you would water them. For 2 years, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate the temple altar. Without your flaw, this beauty would not exist." This story reveals something profound about our relationship to our perceived imperfections. What you consider your biggest flaw might actually be creating beauty in ways you can't see. Your sensitivity might help others feel understood. Your struggles might give you compassion for people going through similar challenges. Your different way of thinking might offer solutions that others miss. Instead of trying to fix your cracks, what if you looked for the flowers they might be watering? Instead of hiding your imperfections, what if you trusted that they might serve a purpose you haven't discovered yet? The Buddha taught that nothing in this world is permanent except the fact of impermanence itself. Your current problems won't last forever, but neither will your current joys. Your relationships will change, your body will age, your circumstances will shift. When you truly understand this impermanence, you begin to hold everything more lightly. You enjoy what's here without desperately trying to make it permanent. You endure what's difficult without believing it will last forever. This doesn't make you indifferent or uncaring. In fact, it often makes you more present and loving because you're not wasting energy on the impossible task of stopping change. You're free to fully experience what's actually happening instead of fighting against what's happening. Consider how this might transform your approach to work. Instead of gripping tightly to specific outcomes, you can focus on doing your best work and releasing attachment to how others respond. Instead of trying to control your colleagues' opinions, you can concentrate on being authentic and letting the relationships develop naturally. This shift often leads to better results because you're acting from clarity rather than anxiety. Or think about how this applies to your health. Instead of fighting your body or demanding it be different, you can work with it compassionately. You can take care of yourself without becoming obsessed with perfect health. You can accept your body's limitations while still encouraging its natural healing and strength. Even your emotions become easier to navigate when you stop gripping them so tightly. Sadness moves through you more quickly when you don't resist it. Anger transforms into clarity when you don't feed it with stories about how wrong everything is. Joy deepens when you don't desperately try to make it permanent. Here's something beautiful that happens as you practice letting go. You begin to notice that life has its own intelligence, its own timing, its own way of working things out. Solutions appear that you never could have planned. Opportunities emerge from unexpected directions. People enter your life exactly when you need them most. This isn't magical thinking. It's what becomes visible when you're not so busy forcing and controlling that you miss the natural flow of support around you. It's like finally hearing the music that was playing all along once you stop making so much noise with your own struggle. Try this experiment for 1 week. Choose one area of your life where you've been pushing hard for a particular outcome. Instead of abandoning your goal, simply change your approach. Take the actions that feel natural and necessary, but release your white-knuckled grip on exactly how and when things should unfold. Notice what happens, not just in your external circumstances, but in your body, your mind, your overall sense of well-being. You might discover that the very thing you were pushing away with your effort begins flowing toward you when you create space for it. You might find that solutions you never considered become obvious. You might realize that what you thought you wanted wasn't actually what would make you happy. The Buddha compared our usual way of living to a monkey with its hand caught in a jar. The monkey reaches through the narrow opening to grab the food inside, but once its fist is full, it can't pull its hand back out. The monkey could easily free itself by letting go of what it's grasping, but it's so focused on the food that it doesn't see the obvious solution. How many jars do you have your hand caught in right now? How many things are you grasping so tightly that you've trapped yourself? The freedom you're seeking might be as simple as opening your fist. But letting go is just the beginning of something even more beautiful. When you create space by releasing what no longer serves you, that space doesn't stay empty. It becomes filled with presence, with awareness, with a different quality of aliveness. And this brings us to one of the most practical and transformative aspects of Buddhist wisdom: learning to train your mind like you would train your body, but with infinite gentleness and patience. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your mind as a garden. Not the perfectly manicured kind you see in magazines, but a real garden where weeds grow alongside flowers, where some seasons are abundant and others feel barren. Now imagine tending this garden, not with force or frustration, but with the patient curiosity of someone who understands that growth happens in its own time. This is what meditation really is. It's not about creating an empty, silent mind. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings that keeps people from experiencing its gifts. Meditation is about learning to be a gentle gardener of your own awareness, cultivating the conditions where peace can naturally bloom. In this garden of your mind, thoughts are not weeds to be eliminated, but natural growth that requires wise tending. Some thoughts are like wildflowers, beautiful and spontaneous. Others might be like brambles, prickly and unwanted, but still part of the landscape. A skilled gardener doesn't wage war against the brambles. They understand how to work with them skillfully. Most people approach meditation like they're going into battle against their thoughts. They sit down with the mission to empty their mind and then feel defeated when thoughts keep arising. It's like trying to stop the ocean from making waves, exhausting and ultimately impossible. The Buddha never taught that you should eliminate thoughts. He taught that you should change your relationship to them. Think about it this way. When you're watching clouds drift across the sky, you don't try to push them away or hold on to the ones you find beautiful. You simply observe their natural movement. Your thoughts are like those clouds. They arise, they change, they pass away. Meditation teaches you to be the sky, not the clouds. There's a story about a young monk who complained to his teacher that his meditation was terrible because his mind was full of thoughts. The teacher took him to a muddy pond and said, "Look at this water. You can't see the bottom because it's stirred up." Then he led the monk to a clear mountain stream and said, "This water is also full of movement, but because it's not fighting against its flow, you can see all the way to the bottom." The teacher smiled and said, "Your mind doesn't need to be still, like a dead pond. It needs to be clear like a flowing stream." This story points to something revolutionary about meditation practice. Clarity doesn't come from stopping your thoughts. It comes from not getting caught up in their drama. When you sit in meditation and notice your mind wandering to your grocery list, you don't need to judge yourself or try harder. You simply notice, "Oh, there's planning happening," and gently return your attention to your breath. It's like training a puppy, firm but kind, consistent but not harsh. The Buddha taught two main types of meditation that work together like old friends. The first is called shamatha, which means peaceful abiding or calm mental staying. This practice trains your mind to rest on a single object, usually your breath, and to return there each time it wanders. Shamatha is like strengthening your mental muscles. Just as you might lift weights to build physical strength, you practice returning your attention to your breath to build concentration. At first, your mind might wander every few seconds, and that's completely normal. You're not failing, you're noticing, and noticing is actually the whole point. When practicing shamatha, you might place your attention on the sensation of breath at your nostrils, feeling the cool air entering and the warm air leaving. Or you might focus on the gentle rise and fall of your belly. The specific object matters less than your commitment to returning to it each time your mind travels elsewhere. This returning is not a failure, it's the practice itself. The second type is vipassana, which means clear seeing or insight. While shamatha teaches you to focus, vipassana teaches you to observe. Instead of concentrating on one thing, you open your awareness to notice whatever arises: thoughts, emotions, sensations, without getting involved in their stories. Vipassana is like becoming a scientist of your own experience. You might notice, there's anxiety in my chest, or there's a story about what I should have said yesterday, or there's tension in my shoulders. You're not trying to fix or change anything. You're simply gathering data about how your mind and body actually work. In Vipassana practice, you learn to distinguish between primary experiences and secondary reactions. The primary experience might be a physical sensation of tightness in your chest. The secondary reaction is the story you tell yourself about that sensation. This means I'm having a panic attack, or I must be dying. Through practice, you learn to stay with the primary experience without getting swept away by the secondary stories. Here's what makes this so powerful. Most of the time, you're completely identified with your thoughts and emotions. When anxiety arises, you become anxious. When anger appears, you become angry. But meditation creates a small space between you and these experiences. You begin to see that you are not your anxiety. You are the one who notices anxiety. You are not your anger. You are the awareness in which anger appears and disappears. This shift changes everything. When you can observe your emotions without being overwhelmed by them, you naturally start responding to life from a place of choice rather than reaction. You might still feel frustrated when stuck in traffic, but you don't have to let that frustration ruin your entire day. You might still feel sad about a loss, but you don't have to believe the story that says you'll never be happy again. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds wonderful, but I don't have time for long meditation sessions. Here's the beautiful truth. You don't need them. The most transformative meditation practice isn't about sitting for an hour in perfect silence. It's about weaving 5-minute moments of awareness throughout your day. There's an ancient teaching about a master who was asked how long one should meditate. He replied, "If you're very busy, meditate for 20 minutes. If you're extremely busy, meditate for an hour." This wasn't a joke. It was pointing to the truth that the busier your mind becomes, the more you need these moments of stillness. But those moments don't have to be lengthy to be powerful. Think of meditation like water, slowly wearing down stone. It's not the force of a single powerful wave that creates change. It's the gentle, consistent contact over time. 5 minutes of genuine presence each morning can be more transformative than an hour of distracted sitting once a week. Consider how you might approach these 5-minute sessions. Find a comfortable position where you can sit with your spine naturally upright but not rigid. Close your eyes or soften your gaze downward. Begin by taking 3 deep breaths, allowing each exhale to release any tension you're holding. Then let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. Place your attention gently on your breath, like a butterfly landing on a flower. When you notice your mind has wandered, and it will, simply acknowledge where it went without judgment. You might mentally note thinking or planning or remembering, and then gently escort your attention back to your breath. This process of wandering and returning is not a distraction from meditation, it is meditation. The Buddha taught that you can practice mindfulness in 4 foundations: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of mental objects. These aren't separate practices you need to master individually. They're different doorways into the same room of awareness. Mindfulness of the body might be as simple as feeling your feet on the ground as you walk to your kitchen. Notice the weight shifting from one foot to the other, the sensation of your clothes against your skin, the temperature of the air around you. Mindfulness of feelings could be noticing the pleasant sensation of warm sunlight on your face, or the unpleasant feeling of hunger in your stomach. You're not trying to change these feelings, just acknowledging them clearly. Mindfulness of mind might be observing when your thoughts become scattered like leaves in the wind, or when they feel focused and clear like a calm lake. Mindfulness of mental objects could be watching how certain memories trigger specific emotions, or how particular thoughts create tension in your body. Each of these foundations offers a pathway to greater awareness and freedom. But meditation isn't just something you do sitting on a cushion with your eyes closed. The Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught that you can transform any moment into meditation if you bring full presence to it. Washing dishes becomes meditation when you feel the warm water and notice the smoothness of the plates. Walking becomes meditation when you feel each step connecting with the ground. Even brushing your teeth becomes meditation when you pay attention to the sensations and movements. There's a story about a Zen master named Joshu who was asked by a student, "What is the most important teaching in Buddhism?" Joshu was sweeping the temple courtyard at the time, and without stopping his work, he simply said, "Sweeping." The confused student pressed further, "But master, surely there must be something more profound than sweeping." Joshu paused, looked directly at the student, and said, "Then you haven't understood sweeping." This story reveals something profound about the nature of awakened awareness. Enlightenment isn't found in extraordinary experiences or mystical states. It's found in bringing complete presence to whatever you're doing right now. When you're fully present while sweeping, you're not thinking about what you'll do next or replaying what happened yesterday. You're simply here, now, engaged in the simple act of sweeping. And in that complete presence, something magical happens. Ordinary actions become sacred. Another beautiful teaching comes from Master Huangpo, who said, "Your everyday mind, that is the way." He wasn't talking about your distracted, worried, planning mind. He was pointing to the natural awareness that's always present beneath the mental chatter. The mind that notices the taste of your morning coffee, that feels grateful for a friend's laughter, that recognizes beauty in unexpected moments. This everyday awareness, when cultivated through practice, becomes your gateway to peace. The traditional Buddhist understanding of how meditation works is both simple and profound. The Buddha taught that our suffering comes from three mental poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. Meditation doesn't eliminate these tendencies. It helps you see them clearly, so they lose their power over you. When greed arises as a desperate wanting for things to be different, meditation helps you notice this craving without being consumed by it. When hatred appears as aversion to what's happening now, meditation teaches you to acknowledge this resistance without letting it control your actions. When delusion clouds your perception with stories about how things should be, meditation clears the mental fog so you can see reality more clearly. This process happens naturally, like muddy water settling when you stop stirring it. The Buddha compared the mind to a jar of muddy water. When you're constantly agitating it with worry, planning, and reactivity, you can't see clearly. But when you stop stirring, when you simply sit and observe, without interfering, the mud gradually settles and the water becomes clear. Let's make this practical for your daily life. Here are 3 simple ways to begin training your mind like a garden, starting today. First, the morning breath practice. Before you check your phone or get out of bed, take 3 conscious breaths. Feel your body against the mattress. Notice the quality of light in your room and simply breathe. This isn't about achieving any particular state. It's about starting your day with awareness rather than immediately jumping into activity. Let this practice be like opening the curtains in your mind, gently welcoming the day. Second, the mindful transition practice. Choose one daily transition, like walking from your car to your workplace or from one room to another in your home, and use it as a meditation bell. Each time you make this transition, take 3 conscious steps where you feel your feet touching the ground and notice your breath. This simple practice begins to break up the autopilot patterns that keep you disconnected from the present moment. Think of these transitions as doorways where you can step from distraction into presence. Third, the emotional weather practice. Several times throughout your day, pause and ask yourself, what's the weather like in my mind right now? Is it stormy with worry, cloudy with confusion, sunny with contentment? You're not trying to change the weather, you're simply becoming aware of it. This practice helps you realize that emotions, like weather, are temporary and constantly changing. Just as you wouldn't try to argue with a thunderstorm, you can learn to let emotional storms pass through without resistance. There's a lesser-known story about a monk who spent years trying to achieve perfect meditation. He would sit for hours, fighting with his thoughts and becoming frustrated when his mind wandered. One day, exhausted from his efforts, he simply gave up trying to meditate correctly and just sat quietly, allowing whatever arose to be there. In that moment of surrender, he noticed something he had missed in all his striving. The birds were singing outside the meditation hall, the wind was rustling through the trees, and his breath was flowing naturally, without any effort on his part. He realized that meditation wasn't something he needed to create or achieve. It was something that was always happening, waiting for him to notice. This story points to one of the most liberating aspects of meditation practice. You're not trying to create a special state or have profound experiences. You're simply learning to recognize and rest in the natural peace that's always available beneath the surface of your busy mind. The 8th century Buddhist master Shantideva wrote, "If you want to know your mind, sit down and observe it." This simple instruction contains everything you need to know about meditation. You don't need special techniques, expensive equipment, or years of training. You just need the willingness to sit down and pay attention to what's actually happening in your experience right now. As you begin to cultivate this quality of gentle attention, you might notice that your relationship to everything starts to shift. Difficult emotions don't feel as overwhelming because you're not fighting them. Pleasant experiences become richer because you're fully present for them. Everyday activities become more satisfying because you're actually there while they're happening. Food tastes better when you're not eating while scrolling through your phone. Conversations become more meaningful when you're truly listening instead of planning what to say next. The Buddha taught that meditation is like polishing a mirror. You're not trying to create something new. You're simply removing the dust that's been accumulating on the surface. Beneath all the mental chatter and emotional reactivity, your natural clarity and peace are already there, waiting to be revealed. Remember, you don't need to be perfect at this. There's no such thing as a bad meditation session. Every time you notice your mind has wandered and gently bring your attention back, you're strengthening your capacity for awareness. Every moment of presence, no matter how brief, is a victory worth celebrating. As your mind settles, something magical happens to how you see and experience the world around you. Colors seem more vivid, sounds become more clear, and you begin to notice beauty in places you never looked before. This isn't because the world has changed. It's because you're finally awake enough to see what was always there. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there's a secret door standing wide open just beside you. You've probably walked past it thousands of times without noticing, too busy rushing towards some imagined future or replaying scenes from yesterday. This door doesn't lead to another place. It opens into this place, this moment, this breath you're taking right now. And the extraordinary thing about this door is that it's always available, always unlocked, always welcoming you home to yourself. Most of us spend our days like sleepwalkers, moving through routines we barely register. You brush your teeth while mentally reviewing your schedule. You eat breakfast while scrolling through your phone. You drive to work replaying yesterday's conversation or rehearsing tonight's difficult discussion. You're physically present, but mentally absent, like an actor performing in a play while thinking about something completely different. This autopilot existence isn't a character flaw or a modern disease. It's a natural function of the human mind, which evolved to solve problems and plan for the future. But when this survival mechanism becomes your default way of being, you miss the very life you're trying to protect and improve. You become like someone frantically searching for their glasses while wearing them, looking everywhere except the one place they actually are. Consider how many moments you've missed while your mind was elsewhere. How many sunsets passed unnoticed while you worried about tomorrow's meeting? How many conversations with loved ones became background noise to your internal commentary? How many meals were consumed without tasting? How many walks taken without feeling your feet touch the earth? This isn't about guilt or regret. It's about recognizing the invitation that's always available to return. The Buddha taught that this unconscious living is one of the deepest forms of suffering. Not because it's dramatic or painful, but because it's so subtle, you don't even realize what you're missing. You might have a perfectly fine day and still feel empty at the end of it, wondering where the hours went and why nothing felt quite real. It's like living your entire life watching a movie of your experience instead of actually having the experience. There's a story about a Zen student who complained to his master that meditation was boring. "All I do is sit and breathe," he said. "Where is the enlightenment you promised?" The master handed him a cup of tea and said, "Drink this." The student drank quickly and set the cup down. "What did it taste like?" asked the master. The student paused, realizing he had no idea. He had been so focused on finishing the task that he never actually tasted the tea. The master smiled gently and said, "When you can drink tea and taste it, you will understand meditation." This story reveals something profound about presence. Awakening isn't about having special experiences or reaching altered states of consciousness. It's about being fully here for the ordinary experiences you're already having. It's about tasting your tea while you drink it, feeling your feet while you walk, hearing the words while someone speaks to you. The secret door to presence opens whenever you remember to step out of the story in your head and into the sensations in your body. Right now, can you feel the weight of your body wherever you're sitting or lying? Can you notice the temperature of the air on your skin? Can you hear the sounds around you, perhaps traffic in the distance or the hum of an appliance? These simple sensations are happening right now, regardless of whatever drama your mind might be spinning. Your body is always in the present moment. It has no choice in the matter. It can't be anywhere else, can't experience anything else, can't worry about tomorrow or regret yesterday. When you anchor your attention in bodily sensation, you immediately step out of time travel and into the eternal now. 2.0. This is why the breath is such a powerful meditation object. It's always happening here, always happening now. When you pay attention to what's actually happening, instead of what you're thinking about what's happening, something magical occurs. The simplest activities become sources of wonder. Washing dishes transforms from a chore into a meditation when you feel the warm water flowing over your hands. Notice the rainbow bubbles forming and popping. Hear the gentle clink of plates against each other. Suddenly, you're not washing dishes to get them done. You're washing dishes to wash dishes. Take the simple act of making your bed in the morning. Usually, this might be done hurriedly, your mind already racing toward the day's first meeting or obligation. But what happens when you slow down and actually feel the texture of the sheets between your fingers? When you notice the satisfaction of smoothing wrinkles and arranging pillows, when you appreciate the transformation from rumpled to orderly, the bed still gets made, but you've created a moment of mindful care that sets a different tone for your entire day. Drinking your morning coffee becomes a ceremony when you notice the steam rising from the cup. Inhale the rich aroma Feel the warmth spreading through your chest as you swallow. Walking to your mailbox becomes a journey when you feel each step. Notice how your weight shifts from heel to toe. Observe how the light filters through the trees. These aren't special moments you need to create. They're ordinary moments you need to inhabit. The Vietnamese master Thich Nhat Hanh tells a story about washing dishes. He says that if you wash dishes to get them clean, you're not really washing dishes. You're enduring the present moment to get to the next one. But if you wash dishes to wash dishes, if you're fully present for the water, the soap, the motion of your hands, then washing dishes becomes a gateway to peace. The dishes still get clean, but something else happens too. You come alive. This same principle applies to every mundane activity in your life. Folding laundry becomes meditation when you notice the softness of fabric, the rhythm of your movements, the satisfaction of creating order. Waiting in line stops being frustrating when you use it as an opportunity to observe people, appreciate the simple fact that you're alive, or practice patience as a form of inner training. Even cleaning the bathroom can become a practice of mindful attention to detail, of caring for your living space, of finding dignity in humble tasks. This quality of presence is particularly powerful when it comes to anxiety and worry. Notice that anxiety never exists in the present moment. It lives entirely in stories about the future, what might happen, what could go wrong, how you might not be able to handle what's coming. When you're fully present, anxiety has nowhere to land because it can only survive in the realm of mental projection. There's a lesser-known story about Master Yunmen, who was once asked by a student drowning in worries about the future. The student said, "Master, I'm terrified about what might happen tomorrow." Yunmen pointed to a bird singing outside the window and said, "Listen to that bird. Is it worried about tomorrow's song?" The student said, "No, Master, but birds don't have the same concerns as humans." Yunmen smiled and replied, "You're right. The bird is much wiser. It's singing today's song today." This doesn't mean ignoring real responsibilities or failing to plan for the future. It means distinguishing between practical planning and anxious rumination. When you need to prepare for something, you can do so from a place of presence rather than panic. You can make your lists, have your conversations, and take your actions while remaining grounded in the reality of now. Imagine the difference between anxious planning and present moment planning. Anxious planning feels frantic, overwhelming, full of worst-case scenarios and endless what-ifs. Present moment planning feels calm and methodical, dealing with one step at a time, staying connected to your body and breath while you think through practical details. Both might accomplish the same external tasks, but one depletes your energy while the other preserves it. Try this simple experiment the next time you notice anxiety arising. Instead of fighting the worried thoughts or trying to solve the imagined problems, bring your attention to your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice your breathing. Sense the space around you. Anxiety is a mental storm, but your body is always here, always present, always available, as an anchor. When you ground yourself in physical sensation, the storm can rage without sweeping you away. You might notice that anxiety often creates physical tension, tight shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breathing. Instead of trying to think your way out of anxiety, try breathing your way through it. Take slow, deep breaths and consciously relax the areas of tension with each exhale. This isn't about eliminating anxiety entirely. It's about staying present, even when anxiety is visiting. This practice of presence transforms every relationship in your life, starting with the relationship you have with yourself. When you're truly present, you stop being your own worst critic and become your own compassionate witness. Instead of judging your thoughts and emotions, you simply notice them with the same curiosity you might have for clouds passing through the sky. But perhaps the most profound transformation happens in how you connect with other people. Think about the last time someone gave you their complete attention. No phone, no distraction, no part of their mind elsewhere. It probably felt like a rare gift, didn't it? That's because most of us have forgotten how to be fully present with each other. When you're truly present with someone, you're not listening for your turn to speak or planning what advice to give. You're not comparing their story to your own or judging whether their feelings are reasonable. You're simply there, open and available, creating a space where they can be themselves without performance or pretense. This kind of presence is so rare that people often can't name what's different about the interaction, but they walk away, feeling heard, seen, and somehow lighter. You haven't necessarily said anything profound or offered brilliant solutions. You've simply given them the gift of your undivided attention, and that attention itself becomes healing. There's a beautiful teaching story about a woman who visited a wise hermit seeking advice about her troubled marriage. She spent an hour describing all the ways her husband disappointed her, expecting the hermit to offer strategies for changing him. Instead, the hermit listened in complete silence, never once looking away or showing signs of distraction. When she finished speaking, he simply said, "Thank you for trusting me with your pain." The woman left without any advice, but she felt more peaceful than she had in months. Later, she realized that the hermit had shown her what she had been craving all along, not solutions, but presence. Children naturally understand this quality of presence because they haven't yet learned to live anywhere but right here, right now. Watch a child playing with blocks or drawing with crayons. They're not thinking about what they'll do next or how their creation compares to others. They're completely absorbed in the colors, the textures, the simple joy of creation. This is your natural state too, buried beneath years of conditioning that taught you to live in your head instead of your life. The Buddha often compared awakening to turning on a light in a dark room. He said, "Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened." Happiness never decreases by being shared. But perhaps even more profound is his teaching that the light switch has always been within reach. Presence isn't something you need to create or achieve. It's something you need to remember and return to. When you flip that inner light switch through present moment awareness, you don't change what's in the room of your life. The same furniture is there, the same challenges and joys, the same relationships and responsibilities. But suddenly you can see everything clearly, instead of stumbling around in the darkness of unconscious habit. The room was always exactly as it is. You just couldn't see it clearly. This illumination reveals something surprising about your experience. Most of your suffering isn't caused by what's actually happening. It's caused by your resistance to what's happening. When you're present, you can respond to reality as it is, rather than fighting with your ideas about how it should be. This doesn't make you passive or resigned. It makes you available to work skillfully with whatever life presents. Let's make this practical with 3 simple ways to cultivate presence throughout your day. These aren't additional tasks to add to your already full schedule. They're ways of doing what you're already doing with greater awareness. First, the red light practice. Every time you encounter a red light while driving, instead of feeling frustrated about the delay, use it as a mindfulness bell. Feel your hands on the steering wheel, notice your breathing, look around, and really see your surroundings. Traffic lights happen dozens of times during most drives, giving you dozens of opportunities to return to presence. Over time, you might find yourself actually appreciating red lights as moments of forced stillness in your busy day. Second, the doorway practice. Each time you walk through a doorway, whether entering your home, office, or any other space, use that threshold as a reminder to arrive in the present moment. Take one conscious breath as you cross the threshold, feeling your feet on the ground and noticing the shift from one space to another. This simple practice helps you transition mindfully between the different environments and roles in your life. Third, the waiting practice. Instead of automatically reaching for your phone whenever you have to wait, in line at the store, for an appointment, for someone to arrive, use these moments as opportunities for presence. Notice what you can see, hear, and feel without needing to be entertained or productive. Let yourself simply be where you are, when you are there. These brief interludes of awareness can become some of the most peaceful moments in your day. There's a story about a Zen master who was asked what enlightenment feels like. He thought for a moment and then said, "It's like walking through your own front door." The student was confused and asked for clarification. The master explained, "Most people spend their entire lives standing outside their own door, looking through the windows and imagining what it might be like inside. Enlightenment is simply having the courage to turn the handle and walk in. Your life is happening right now, in this moment, in this breath. Not in the conversation you're planning to have later, not in the memory you keep replaying, not in the future you're trying to control. Here now, in the simple fact of your existence in this moment. The secret door to presence is always open because there's nowhere to go and nothing to achieve. You're already home. You just need to notice that you've arrived. As you practice living this way, something profound begins to shift in your understanding of how life actually works. You start to see that every moment is both a result of what came before and a seed for what will come next. You begin to recognize that the quality of your presence now directly influences the quality of your future experience. This awareness leads naturally to one of the most empowering teachings the Buddha ever shared: the truth that every action, every thought, every choice you make is simultaneously an effect of the past and a cause for the future. When you understand this deeply, you realize that the present moment isn't just where life happens, it's where life is created. Each breath, each step, each interaction becomes an opportunity to plant seeds of wisdom, compassion, and peace that will bloom in ways you can't yet imagine. When you live this way, you start to understand something profound about cause and effect that changes how you approach every aspect of your existence. Imagine for a moment that your life is a vast garden, and every action you take, every word you speak, every thought you entertain, every choice you make, is a seed you're planting in the soil of tomorrow. Some seeds will sprout quickly, showing their fruits within days or weeks. Others lie dormant for seasons, even years, before they finally break through the earth and reveal what you've been cultivating. This is the true meaning of karma, not a cosmic judge keeping score of your good and bad deeds, but the natural law of cause and effect playing out through your conscious choices. The word karma has been so misunderstood in popular culture that many people think of it as a form of divine punishment or reward. That's your karma, someone might say, when misfortune strikes, as if the universe were settling some cosmic debt. But the Buddha's teaching about karma is far more gentle and empowering than this harsh interpretation suggests. Karma simply means action in Sanskrit, and the law of karma is nothing more mysterious than recognizing that actions have consequences. When you plant an apple seed, you don't get oranges. When you water a plant with care, it grows stronger. When you neglect it, it withers. These aren't moral judgments. They're natural processes. Karma works the same way in the realm of human experience. Actions rooted in kindness tend to create more kindness in the world. Actions born from anger tend to generate more conflict. This isn't because the universe is keeping score, but because that's simply how energy moves through human relationships and circumstances. Think of karma as the soil condition of your life's garden. Just as a gardener pays attention to soil pH, moisture levels, and nutrient content, you can learn to notice the quality of intention and attention you bring to your daily actions. Rich, well-tended soil produces abundant harvest. Depleted, toxic soil struggles to support healthy growth. Your consciousness is that soil, and your awareness is what allows you to tend it skillfully. What makes this understanding so liberating is that it puts the power entirely in your hands. You're not a victim of random fate or divine whim. You're not powerless against the circumstances of your life. Every moment, you're actively participating in creating your future experience through the quality of attention and intention you bring to your actions. The Buddha taught that we create karma through 3 doors: the door of the body, the door of speech, and the door of the mind. These aren't separate systems but interconnected gateways through which your inner life becomes your outer experience. Understanding how these doors work gives you practical tools for cultivating the kind of life you actually want to live. The door of the body includes every physical action you take, from how you move through space to how you touch others, from your posture to your gestures. Your body is constantly communicating, and these communications have consequences. When you move through the world with gentleness, others sense that gentleness and often respond in kind. When you carry yourself with confidence but not arrogance, people are naturally drawn to that balanced energy. Consider how you walk into a room. Are you rushing in with scattered energy, checking your phone, barely acknowledging the people already there? Or do you enter with presence, making eye contact, perhaps offering a genuine smile? These might seem like small differences, but they create entirely different atmospheres and invite completely different responses from others. Even something as simple as how you close a door creates karma. Do you let it slam behind you, creating a jarring sound that disrupts others? Or do you close it mindfully, with consideration for the people nearby? How you handle objects, whether you set things down gently or drop them carelessly, reflects your internal state and influences the energy around you. There's a story about a Zen master named Ikkyu, who was known for his unconventional behavior. One day, he entered a temple where he wasn't recognized, dressed in simple traveling clothes. The monks paid him little attention and seated him in the back during the meal. Ikkyu said nothing, ate quietly, and left. The next day, he returned wearing his formal robes as a renowned master, and the same monks rushed to honor him with the best seat and finest food. Ikkyu began serving the food to his sleeves, saying, "Eat, sleeves, since it was the robes that brought you honor, not the person wearing them." Then he quietly left again. This story reveals how our external actions, including how we present ourselves, create specific consequences. The monk's behavior toward the robes versus the person generated very different karma for their community. Ikkyu's gentle but clear demonstration planted seeds of awareness that likely influenced how those monks treated future visitors. The door of speech is perhaps the most immediate creator of karma in our daily lives. Every word you speak is a seed that will grow in the consciousness of whoever hears it. Words of encouragement can literally change the course of someone's day, or even their life. Words of criticism or complaint can poison the atmosphere of an entire household or workplace. But speech karma isn't just about the content of your words. It's also about their tone, timing, and intention. The same factual information can be delivered as an attack or as a gift of awareness. "You're always late" creates very different karma than "I was worried" when you didn't arrive at our planned time. Both communicate the same basic information, but one plants seeds of defensiveness, while the other plants seeds of consideration. Consider the karmic difference between gossip and genuine concern. When you speak about someone's difficulties with curiosity or judgment, you're planting seeds of divisiveness and mistrust. But when you speak about the same situation with compassion, hoping to understand how to help, you're planting seeds of community and care. The external topic might be identical, but the intention behind your words creates completely different consequences. Even your internal speech, the constant stream of thoughts and mental commentary, creates karma. The Buddha taught that thoughts are the forerunners of all actions. What you think repeatedly becomes the blueprint for what you speak and do. If your mind is constantly rehearsing judgments and complaints, those patterns will eventually emerge in your words and actions. If you cultivate thoughts of gratitude and kindness, those qualities will naturally flow into your interactions with others. This is where the door of the mind becomes crucial for conscious karma creation. Your mental habits are like the soil condition in your karmic garden. Rich, well-tended soil produces abundant, healthy growth. Depleted, toxic soil struggles to support anything beautiful. The quality of your mental soil is determined by what you feed it. Do you constantly consume media that agitates and frightens you? Do you spend time with people who encourage your worst tendencies rather than your best qualities? Do you replay negative scenarios obsessively, or do you notice beauty and practice gratitude? These choices about what you allow into your mental space directly influence the kinds of thoughts that arise naturally, which in turn influence your words and actions. Let's make this practical with some examples of daily seed planting. When you wake up in the morning, you can plant seeds of gratitude by taking a moment to appreciate that you've been given another day of life. Or you can plant seeds of stress by immediately diving into your phone to check emails and news. Both choices create momentum that influences how the rest of your day unfolds. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you can plant seeds of anger by cursing and letting road rage consume you. Or you can plant seeds of compassion by considering that they might be rushing to the hospital or dealing with their own crisis. The external situation is the same, but your response determines what grows in your internal landscape and how you'll interact with the next person you encounter. When a coworker takes credit for your idea, you can plant seeds of resentment by complaining to everyone who will listen. Or you can plant seeds of wisdom by using the experience to learn about workplace dynamics and your own boundaries. You might even plant seeds of generosity by allowing them to have the credit while quietly continuing to contribute your best work. Consider how you respond to small disappointments throughout your day. When your coffee shop is out of your favorite drink, when your train is delayed, when technology doesn't work as expected. These minor frustrations are perfect opportunities to practice planting seeds of patience and flexibility rather than irritation and complaint. The cumulative effect of handling small challenges with grace creates a completely different quality of life than constantly fighting against minor inconveniences. These aren't suggestions to become a doormat or to suppress authentic emotions. If someone consistently takes advantage of you, setting clear boundaries is its own form of skillful karma creation. The key is responding from awareness rather than reacting from unconscious patterns. Here's one of the most liberating aspects of understanding karma. You're not trapped by your past actions. Yes, some consequences of previous choices are still unfolding. You can't undo everything you've done or said. But every moment offers a fresh opportunity to plant new seeds. The Buddha taught that the present moment is the only place where transformation is possible. If you've been planting seeds of impatience for years, you don't have to wait for some cosmic deadline to change your patterns. You can begin cultivating patience right now, in this conversation, with this challenge, through this breath. If you've been unconsciously planting seeds of criticism and complaint, you can start noticing what's actually working in your life and expressing appreciation for it. There's a beautiful story about a woman who visited the Buddha, distraught about her past mistakes. She had spoken harshly to her children, been unfaithful to her husband, and treated her parents with disrespect. I've created so much bad karma, she wept. Is there any hope for me? The Buddha picked up 2 cups of water, one muddy, one clear. He slowly poured the clear water into the muddy cup, and gradually the water became cleaner and cleaner. Your past actions are like this muddy water, he said gently. But every moment of mindful, loving action is like adding clear water. Keep adding clear water, and soon the muddy water becomes clear. This metaphor reveals something profound about how karma actually works. You don't have to achieve perfect purity before you can begin creating positive consequences. Every small choice toward kindness, awareness, and wisdom immediately begins shifting the overall quality of your life's trajectory. Breaking unconscious patterns is one of the most powerful ways to work with karma consciously. Most of our reactive patterns were formed when we were very young and had limited tools for dealing with challenging emotions or situations. As an adult, you have access to resources and perspectives that simply weren't available to you as a child. But those old patterns keep running automatically unless you consciously interrupt them. The first step in breaking patterns is simply noticing them without judgment. Maybe you realize that you always respond to criticism by getting defensive and counterattacking. Or you notice that you tend to shut down and withdraw whenever conflict arises. Or you recognize that you automatically say yes to requests even when you're already overwhelmed. Just seeing these patterns clearly is the beginning of freedom from them. Once you can recognize a pattern as it's happening, you can create a small pause before reacting. In that pause, even if it's just one breath, you have the opportunity to choose a different response. You might still fall back into the old pattern sometimes, and that's perfectly normal. Change happens gradually, with patience and self-compassion. The Buddha said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. This means that every time you choose awareness over reactivity, compassion over criticism, or patience over irritation, you're literally rewiring your brain to make those responses more natural in the future. He also taught, every morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. This isn't just inspiring philosophy, it's practical instruction for conscious karma creation. Yesterday's mistakes don't define today's possibilities. Today's choices don't have to repeat yesterday's patterns. Another profound teaching says, if you want to know your past, look at your present condition. If you want to know your future, look at your present actions. This puts enormous power in your hands, while also encouraging honest self-reflection. Your current circumstances are the fruit of seeds you've been planting, consciously or unconsciously. And the seeds you're planting right now through your thoughts, words, and actions are creating the conditions you'll experience tomorrow. This doesn't mean that everything happening to you is directly caused by your personal actions. You exist within larger systems and communities, and sometimes you're affected by others' choices or by circumstances beyond anyone's control. The teaching about karma isn't meant to blame victims or suggest that people deserve their suffering. It's meant to empower you to take responsibility for the aspects of your life that you can influence. Working with karma consciously also involves understanding the ripple effects of your actions. When you plant seeds of kindness, those seeds don't just affect your immediate experience. They influence everyone you interact with, who then carry that energy into their other relationships. When you choose to respond to rudeness with patience, rather than escalating the conflict, you break a cycle that might have affected dozens of people throughout the day. There's a story about a businessman who was running late for an important meeting and became increasingly agitated as he sat in traffic. By the time he reached his destination, he was angry and stressed. He spoke curtly to the parking attendant, snapped at his secretary, and entered the meeting in a foul mood. The meeting went poorly, relationships were strained, and everyone left feeling frustrated. The parking attendant was rude to the next customer. The secretary was short with her family that evening, and the meeting participants carried their bad moods into their other interactions. One person's unconscious response to traffic had created a web of negative consequences, touching dozens of lives. But the story could have unfolded very differently. If the businessman had used the time in traffic to practice patience, perhaps listening to calming music or practicing gratitude for his successful business, he would have arrived in a completely different state. His calm presence might have brightened the parking attendant's day, created a more positive interaction with his secretary, and contributed to a productive meeting where everyone felt heard and valued. Those positive interactions would have rippled outward, creating a web of beneficial consequences instead. This understanding naturally leads to a different way of caring about your impact on the world. When you realize that your inner state directly influences the atmosphere around you, self-care stops being selfish and becomes a form of service. Taking care of your own mental and emotional well-being means you're more likely to be a positive presence in other people's lives. Cultivating peace within yourself becomes a gift you offer to everyone you encounter. This understanding naturally leads to a different way of caring, not just for yourself, but for the intricate web of relationships and communities that your life touches every single day. There's a profound misunderstanding about compassion that causes immense suffering in our world. Many people believe that truly caring for others means sacrificing themselves completely, pouring out their energy until they're empty, giving until it hurts, and then giving some more. They think that setting boundaries or taking care of their own needs somehow diminishes their love or makes them selfish. But this approach to caring, however well-intentioned, often creates the very opposite of what we're trying to achieve. When you give from a place of depletion, when you help others while neglecting yourself, when you say yes to every request while your own well-being crumbles, you're not actually offering genuine compassion. You're offering a performance of compassion that might look noble on the surface, but lacks the sustainable foundation that true service requires. It's like trying to water a garden from an empty well. The intention is beautiful, but the resources simply aren't there. The Buddha taught something revolutionary about compassion that challenges our cultural myths about self-sacrifice. He said that true compassion must include yourself, or it becomes another form of suffering. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot offer genuine peace if you're agitated, authentic love if you're resentful, or sustainable support if you're depleted. Think about the last time you helped someone when you were already overwhelmed and exhausted. How did it feel? Were you fully present with them? Or was part of you counting the minutes until you could escape? Did your assistance come from a place of joy and abundance, or from obligation and guilt? The person you were helping could probably sense the difference, even if neither of you acknowledged it directly. Consider the difference between helping from overflow versus helping from emptiness. When you've taken care of your basic needs, sleep, nutrition, emotional well-being, your assistance flows naturally and feels energizing. But when you're running on fumes, every act of service feels like another weight added to an already heavy load. The recipient of your help can feel this difference, even if they can't articulate it. A wise teacher once shared the story of a monastery where one monk became known for his incredible generosity. He would give away his food, his blankets, even his meditation time to help others. Other monks praised him as the most compassionate person they knew. But over time, he became increasingly irritable, exhausted, and resentful. His health deteriorated, and his presence began to feel heavy rather than uplifting. When the abbot asked him about this change, the monk broke down and confessed that he felt trapped. He wanted to take care of himself, but he was afraid that others would think he had become selfish. The abbot smiled gently and said, "A lamp that burns too bright burns out quickly. A lamp that burns steadily can light the way for many people for many years. Which serves others better?" This teaching illustrates something crucial about sustainable compassion. The goal isn't to burn as brightly as possible for as long as you can manage before collapsing. The goal is to find a way of caring that can be maintained over time, that grows stronger rather than weaker with practice. This begins with understanding that boundaries aren't walls that separate you from others. They're the foundation that allows genuine connection to flourish. When you know your limits and honor them, when you take care of your own basic needs first, you create the conditions where authentic generosity becomes possible. You're no longer giving from desperation or obligation, but from a sense of overflow and genuine care. Consider how flight attendants instruct passengers about oxygen masks during safety demonstrations. They always say to put on your own mask first before helping others, even your own children. This isn't because the airline values adults more than children. It's because you can't effectively help anyone if you're unconscious. The same principle applies to emotional and spiritual well-being. You have to ensure your own stability before you can offer genuine support to others. Boundaries might look like saying no to additional commitments when you're already stretched thin. They might mean taking time each day for activities that restore your energy rather than drain it. They could involve setting limits on how much you're willing to listen to complaints without seeing any effort towards solutions. Or they might mean asking for help when you need it, instead of trying to handle everything alone. Many people resist creating boundaries because they've been conditioned to believe that their worth depends on how much they give to others. They fear that saying no will make them appear selfish or uncaring. But authentic boundaries actually increase your capacity for genuine love because they ensure you're giving from a full cup rather than an empty one. The Buddhist practice of Tonglen offers a beautiful way to work with suffering, both your own and others, without becoming overwhelmed by it. Tonglen means giving and taking in Tibetan, and it involves a specific breathing practice that cultivates genuine compassion while maintaining inner stability. In Tonglen practice, you intentionally breathe in the suffering you encounter, your own pain, the distress of someone you're trying to help, or even the general suffering you see in the world. But instead of letting that suffering overwhelm you or trying to push it away, you transform it through your compassionate heart and breathe out relief, healing, and peace. You're not absorbing the suffering and making it your own. You're allowing it to pass through you and be transformed. This might seem counterintuitive at first. Why would you intentionally breathe in pain and suffering? But the practice teaches something profound about the nature of compassion. When you can face suffering directly, without being destroyed by it, when you can remain present with pain without drowning in it, you develop a kind of fearlessness that allows you to be genuinely helpful. Let's try a simple version of this practice right now. Think of someone in your life who is struggling, perhaps a family member dealing with illness, a friend going through a difficult divorce, or a colleague facing work challenges. Take a slow, deep breath in, and as you inhale, imagine breathing in their pain, their fear, their confusion. Don't try to fix it or analyze it, just acknowledge it with your breath. Then, as you exhale slowly, imagine breathing out whatever they need most. Perhaps peace, strength, clarity, or simply the feeling of being understood. Continue this for several breaths, noticing how it feels to practice compassion without trying to solve or control the situation. What many people discover through Tonglen practice is that they can be present with suffering without being consumed by it. They can offer genuine care without taking on the emotional burden of fixing everything. This creates space for authentic compassion to emerge, the kind that supports others without depleting yourself. But even with practices like Tonglen, you'll still encounter situations where you need to say no to requests for help. Learning to decline gracefully is one of the most important skills for maintaining sustainable compassion. The key is saying no to the request while saying yes to the person, acknowledging their need while honoring your own limitations. Here are some gentle ways to set limits that preserve relationships while protecting your energy. Instead of saying, "I can't help you," try, "I care about what you're going through, and I'm not able to take this on right now." Instead of making excuses or lengthy explanations, you might say, "That doesn't work for me, but I hope you find the support you need." Or, you could offer an alternative. "I can't commit to that project, but I could spend an hour helping you brainstorm other options." The tone you use matters as much as the words. When you speak from a place of genuine care rather than defensiveness or guilt, people can usually hear the love in your boundary. You're not rejecting them as a person. You're simply being honest about your current capacity. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's patterns of dependency or avoidance. If a friend constantly calls you to complain about their relationship, but never takes any steps to address the underlying issues, continuing to provide unlimited listening time might actually be preventing their growth. Setting a gentle boundary, perhaps saying, "I've noticed we talk about this situation often, and I wonder if it might be helpful for you to speak with a counselor who has more tools to support you," can be an act of genuine caring. This brings us to one of the most challenging aspects of sustainable compassion: learning to be your own best friend. Most people find it much easier to be kind and understanding toward others than toward themselves. You might comfort a friend who made a mistake by saying, "Everyone makes errors. You're only human," while speaking to yourself with harsh criticism for the same type of mistake. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence or making excuses for your behavior. It's treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend who was struggling. It's recognizing that your imperfections don't make you unworthy of care and understanding. It's acknowledging your mistakes without defining yourself by them. The Buddha taught that hatred never ceases through hatred, but only through love. This applies especially to the relationship you have with yourself. When you're constantly criticizing and pushing yourself, you create internal conflict that depletes the very energy you need for genuine service to others. But when you learn to speak to yourself with kindness, to acknowledge your efforts even when they fall short of perfection, you create an internal environment that naturally generates compassion for others. Try this simple practice for developing self-compassion. The next time you notice harsh self-talk arising, pause and ask yourself, what would I say to a dear friend who was experiencing this same situation? Then offer yourself those same words of understanding and encouragement. It might feel awkward at first, but like any skill, self-compassion improves with practice. Self-compassion also means honoring your own needs without guilt. This might involve taking time for activities that restore your energy, reading, walking in nature, creating art, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea. It could mean asking for help when you need it, instead of trying to handle everything independently. Or it might involve setting boundaries around your time and energy so you don't constantly operate from a place of overwhelm. Notice how different it feels to take a break because you deserve rest versus taking a break because you're about to collapse. The first approach feels nurturing and sustainable. The second feels like damage control. Learning to care for yourself proactively rather than reactively changes the entire quality of your self-relationship. When you take care of yourself consistently and without guilt, something beautiful happens. Your compassion for others becomes more genuine because it's not tainted with resentment or exhaustion. Your presence becomes more peaceful because you're not constantly fighting an internal battle between your own needs and others' demands. Your service becomes more sustainable because it's rooted in abundance rather than scarcity. An ancient teaching tells of a young monk who complained to his teacher that serving others was exhausting him. "Every day I help carry water, cook meals, and tend to sick visitors," he said. "But I feel depleted rather than fulfilled." The teacher handed him 2 buckets, one with a small hole in the bottom, one that was intact. "Fill both buckets with water and tell me what happens," the teacher said. After a few minutes, the monk reported that the bucket with the hole was empty, while the intact bucket remained full. "Your compassion is like the leaky bucket," the teacher explained. "Until you repair the hole by caring for yourself with the same attention you give to others, you'll never have enough water to share." This teaching points to something crucial about sustainable service. The goal isn't to become a bottomless well of giving, always depleting yourself for others. The goal is to become like a healthy spring that naturally overflows because it's connected to a constant source of renewal. Creating sustainable compassion also means choosing your service consciously rather than saying yes to everything out of guilt or habit. You have limited time and energy, and using them wisely means being selective about where you direct your care. This doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strategic about how to have the greatest positive impact. Some people thrive when helping with practical tasks like cooking or organizing. Others are gifted at providing emotional support through listening and presence. Still, others might contribute best through their professional skills, creative talents, or financial resources. Knowing your unique gifts and focusing your service in those areas allows you to help more effectively while feeling energized rather than drained. You might also notice that certain types of people or situations consistently leave you feeling depleted, while others feel manageable or even energizing. This information can guide you in making conscious choices about where to invest your compassionate energy. It's not about avoiding all difficult situations, but about recognizing your limits and working within them skillfully. Sometimes sustainable compassion means saying, "I'm not the right person to help with this, but let me connect you with someone who would be perfect for what you need." Sometimes it means offering a different kind of support than what's being requested. And sometimes it means being honest that you're not available to help right now, while leaving the door open for future support when your circumstances change. The Buddhist concept of right action applies beautifully to compassionate service. Right action isn't about following rigid rules. It's about responding to each situation with wisdom and awareness. Sometimes the most loving response is to jump in and help immediately. Sometimes it's to step back and allow someone to develop their own strength. Sometimes it's to refer them to more appropriate resources. The key is acting from clarity rather than from guilt, fear, or automatic patterns. As you develop this more balanced approach to caring, you might discover something unexpected. When you're not constantly depleted from overgiving, when you're not resentful from neglecting your own needs, when you're not overwhelmed from taking on more than you can handle, you actually become more generous, not less. Your compassion becomes more genuine, your presence more peaceful, your service more effective. People begin to seek you out not because you'll solve all their problems, but because you offer something increasingly rare in our world, the gift of calm, grounded presence. You become someone who can be with others in their pain without adding your own anxiety to the situation. You offer support that empowers rather than enables, care that strengthens rather than weakens. This balanced way of being leads us to discover something revolutionary about having less, needing less, and finding freedom in the beautiful simplicity of a life well lived. In a culture obsessed with accumulation, the idea that having less could give you more sounds like a paradox. Yet this counterintuitive truth lies at the heart of one of humanity's most profound discoveries about happiness and freedom. When you stop filling your life with things you don't need, pursuing goals that don't fulfill you, and maintaining relationships that drain your energy, something remarkable happens. Space opens up, not just physical space, but mental space, emotional space, spiritual space, for what truly matters to flourish. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called danshari, which offers a practical framework for this transformation. Dan means to refuse or decline things you don't need. Sha means to dispose of things that are cluttering your life. Rai means to separate yourself from attachment to material possessions. But danshari isn't just about organizing your closet or decluttering your garage. It's about creating a life where every element serves your well-being and authentic purpose. Each aspect of danshari contains its own wisdom. Dan The practice of refusing begins before you even bring items into your space. It means developing the strength to say no to free samples that become clutter, gifts that don't align with your lifestyle, and purchases that appeal to who you think you should be rather than who you actually are. This refusal isn't about being ungrateful or rigid. It's about honoring your space and your peace of mind enough to protect them from unnecessary accumulation. Shah, the practice of disposing, requires both courage and compassion. Many people struggle to release possessions because each item carries a story, a memory, or a fantasy about future use. The wedding dress you'll never wear again, the expensive exercise equipment gathering dust, the books you bought with good intentions but no realistic plan to read. Learning to let go of these items means releasing not just the objects themselves, but the versions of yourself they represent. The practice of non-attachment transforms your relationship with ownership itself. Instead of accumulating possessions as symbols of security or success, you begin to see them simply as tools that serve specific purposes. When something no longer serves its purpose, you can release it without trauma because your identity isn't wrapped up in your possessions. Most people think minimalism means living in stark, empty spaces with only the bare necessities. But true simplicity isn't about deprivation, it's about discernment. It's about surrounding yourself only with things that add genuine value to your life, while releasing everything that creates burden, distraction, or stress. When you apply this principle consistently, you discover that you can live richly with far less than you ever imagined. Consider how much mental energy you spend managing your possessions. Every item you own requires some degree of attention: where to store it, how to maintain it, whether to repair or replace it when it breaks. Multiply this by the hundreds or thousands of objects most people accumulate, and you begin to see how possessions can slowly but surely take possession of you. The hidden costs of ownership extend far beyond the initial purchase price. Your beautiful china requires special storage and careful handling. Your extensive wardrobe needs organizing, cleaning, and seasonal rotation. Your collection of gadgets demands updates, maintenance, and eventual replacement. Each possession becomes a small but persistent drain on your time, attention, and resources. The Buddha taught that attachment to material things creates suffering, not because the things themselves are bad, but because we become dependent on them for our sense of security and identity. When your peace of mind depends on having the latest technology, wearing certain brands, or living in a particular neighborhood, you become vulnerable to circumstances beyond your control. Your happiness starts to fluctuate based on external conditions rather than resting on the unshakable foundation of inner contentment. An ancient Buddhist master was once visited by a wealthy merchant who complained about feeling anxious and unsatisfied despite his material success. The master led him to a window overlooking the marketplace and asked, "What do you see?" "I see people buying and selling, carrying heavy loads, rushing from place to place," the merchant replied. Then the master covered the window with a cloth and asked, "Now what do you see?" "Nothing," said the merchant. "Exactly," smiled the master. "When your vision is filled with getting and having, you cannot see the wealth that's already present. Remove the cloth of craving, and abundance becomes visible everywhere." This teaching points to a fundamental shift in perspective that simplicity makes possible. Instead of constantly acquiring to fill an inner emptiness, you begin to recognize the fullness that's already available in each moment. Instead of seeking happiness through accumulation, you discover contentment through appreciation of what's already here. Starting with material possessions, the practice of simplification begins with honest assessment. Walk through your living space and notice how many items you actually use regularly versus how many are simply taking up space. How many clothes hang in your closet unworn for months or years? How many books sit on your shelves unread while you buy more? How many kitchen gadgets gather dust while you eat the same simple meals? This isn't about judgment or forcing yourself to get rid of everything at once. It's about developing awareness of the difference between what you actually need and what you think you might need someday. The someday pile often becomes a collection of good intentions that never materialize, creating mental clutter alongside physical clutter. When you begin releasing items that no longer serve you, something unexpected often happens. Instead of feeling deprived, you feel lighter. Your living space becomes easier to clean and maintain. You can find what you need quickly because everything has a clear place and purpose. Decision-making becomes simpler because you have fewer options to consider. But the real transformation goes deeper than having a tidy home. As you practice choosing quality over quantity, intention over impulse, you develop a different relationship with consumption itself. You start asking different questions before making purchases. Do I really need this, or do I just want it? Will this add genuine value to my life, or am I buying it to fill an emotional need? Can I borrow, rent, or do without this item entirely? This shift in consumption patterns naturally leads to greater financial freedom. When you're not constantly buying things you don't need, you have more resources available for experiences that truly enrich your life: travel, education, time with loved ones, or simply the security of savings. You might discover that you can work less because you need less, creating more time for rest, creativity, and relationships. The principle of simplicity extends beautifully into how you spend your time. Just as physical possessions can accumulate beyond usefulness, commitments and activities can pile up until your schedule becomes a source of stress rather than fulfillment. Time abundance isn't about having more hours in the day. It's about using the hours you have for what matters most. Many people fill their calendars with obligations they feel they should do, rather than activities they genuinely want to engage in. They say yes to every social invitation, volunteer for every cause, and sign up for activities that sound good in theory, but drain their energy in practice. This approach to time often leaves people feeling busy but not productive, active but not fulfilled. The modern addiction to busyness often masks a deeper fear of stillness or emptiness. People schedule every moment because they're uncomfortable with unstructured time, afraid of what might arise in the silence. But this constant activity prevents the kind of deep rest and reflection that allow wisdom and creativity to emerge. True productivity often requires periods of apparent non-productivity, time for ideas to percolate, for the mind to process experiences, for the body to restore itself. Simplifying your schedule requires the same kind of honest assessment you might apply to your possessions. Which activities energize you and which deplete you? Which commitments align with your deepest values and which are based on guilt, fear, or social pressure? What would you do with your time if you weren't trying to please everyone or prove your worth through constant activity? The Buddhist concept of right livelihood applies not just to your work, but to how you spend all your time. Right livelihood means engaging in activities that support your well-being and the well-being of others, while avoiding those that create harm or unnecessary suffering. When you apply this principle to your daily choices, you naturally gravitate towards simplicity, because complex, stressful lifestyles rarely support genuine well-being. Creating time abundance might mean saying no to social events that you attend out of obligation rather than joy. It could involve setting boundaries around work hours, so you have space for rest and reflection. It might mean choosing one or two activities to pursue deeply, rather than sampling everything superficially. The goal isn't to become inactive or antisocial, but to ensure that your time is spent in ways that nourish rather than drain you. This selective approach to time naturally extends to relationships as well. In our interconnected world, it's easy to maintain hundreds of shallow connections through social media while neglecting the deeper relationships that truly sustain us. Simplicity in relationships doesn't mean becoming a hermit. It means investing your emotional energy in connections that are mutual, supportive, and authentic. Consider the difference between having 200 social media friends you barely know versus having 10 close friends who truly understand and support you. Which scenario provides more genuine connection and emotional nourishment? Quality relationships require time, attention, and emotional investment. When you spread yourself too thin across too many superficial connections, you may find that none of your relationships feel deeply satisfying. A Zen master once compared relationships to tending a garden. You could scatter seeds everywhere and hope something grows, he said. But the wise gardener chooses a smaller plot and tends it with care. The harvest from well-tended soil will always be richer than what grows wild in untended ground. This doesn't mean being exclusive or unkind to people outside your inner circle. It means recognizing that your emotional energy is precious and finite, and choosing to invest it where it can create the most mutual growth and joy. It means being present and genuine in the relationships you do maintain rather than trying to be everything to everyone. Simplifying relationships might involve having honest conversations about what you need from each other. It could mean spending more one-on-one time with people you care about, rather than only seeing them in group settings. It might involve stepping back from relationships that consistently drain your energy without offering reciprocal support. As you practice simplicity in possessions, time, and relationships, you begin to discover something profound about contentment. Happiness doesn't come from having more. It comes from appreciating what you already have. This isn't just positive thinking or forced gratitude. It's a fundamental shift in how you perceive wealth and abundance. When your life isn't cluttered with excess possessions, overwhelming schedules, and draining relationships, you have the mental space to notice the richness that was always present. You begin to savor your morning coffee instead of rushing through it. You appreciate the comfort of your home rather than constantly thinking about how to improve it. You enjoy conversations with friends instead of worrying about the next social obligation. The Buddha taught that contentment is the greatest wealth. This profound truth becomes experientially real when you practice voluntary simplicity. You discover that you can be happy with far less than you thought necessary, which creates an unshakable sense of security that no external circumstances can threaten. This contentment isn't complacency or lack of ambition. You can still have goals and work toward positive changes in your life. But your peace of mind no longer depends on achieving those goals. Your sense of worth isn't tied to your accomplishments or possessions. You can engage fully with life while holding your attachments lightly. Practically speaking, developing a minimalist mindset begins with small, manageable steps. You might start by implementing a one-in, one-out policy. For every new item you bring into your home, one existing item leaves. This prevents accumulation while encouraging mindful consumption. Try the 30-day rule for non-essential purchases. When you want to buy something you don't immediately need, wait 30 days before making the purchase. Often, you'll discover that the desire has passed and you don't actually want or need the item anymore. This simple pause helps distinguish between genuine needs and impulse wants. Create designated spaces for different activities and keep only what's necessary in each space. Your bedroom becomes a sanctuary for rest, free from work materials or exercise equipment. Your kitchen contains tools you actually use for cooking rather than every gadget ever invented. Your workspace holds only what supports your productivity and creativity. Practice gratitude for what you already own before considering new purchases. Spend time appreciating the clothes in your closet, the books on your shelves, the tools in your kitchen. When you truly value what you have, the urge to constantly acquire more naturally diminishes. Apply the same principles to your digital life. Unsubscribe from email lists that clutter your inbox with content you don't read. Limit your social media consumption to platforms and accounts that add genuine value to your life. Organize your digital files so you can find what you need quickly, rather than maintaining chaotic folders you never clean. Consider implementing regular digital detoxes, periods where you disconnect from devices and reconnect with immediate physical reality. Start with an hour each evening, then perhaps expand to device-free mornings or entire weekend days. Notice how this digital simplicity affects your mental clarity, creativity, and sense of presence. As you practice these various forms of simplification, something beautiful begins to emerge. Your life becomes more aligned with your deepest values because you've removed the clutter that was obscuring what truly matters. You have more energy for creativity, service, and connection because you're not constantly managing excess. Your decision-making becomes clearer because you're not overwhelmed by too many options. You might discover that simple pleasures bring more satisfaction than expensive ones. A walk in nature feels more restorative than a shopping trip. A home-cooked meal shared with loved ones creates more joy than dining at trendy restaurants. Reading a book you've been meaning to enjoy brings more fulfillment than buying 3 new books you may never read. This isn't about depriving yourself of life's pleasures, but about recognizing which pleasures actually please you versus which ones you pursue out of habit or social conditioning. Simplicity helps you distinguish between authentic desires and manufactured wants. It creates space for your true preferences to emerge from beneath layers of cultural messaging about what should make you happy. These practices naturally weave together into a new way of living, one where your outer life reflects your inner values, where your daily choices support your deepest aspirations, and where you have the freedom to focus on what truly brings meaning and joy to your existence. After this journey through ancient wisdom and timeless practices, you might be wondering how to carry these insights into the beautiful complexity of your everyday life. The truth is, transformation doesn't happen through grand gestures or perfect execution of elaborate spiritual routines. It happens through small, consistent choices that gradually reshape how you move through each ordinary day. Every morning offers a fresh opportunity to practice what you've learned. Every interaction becomes a chance to apply compassion. Every challenge transforms into a teacher in disguise. The beauty of Buddhist wisdom lies in its accessibility. These aren't practices reserved for monasteries or meditation retreats. They're designed to flourish in the midst of busy schedules, difficult relationships, and the countless small decisions that make up a human life. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you already have everything you need to begin living differently. Let's start with how you greet each new day. Before your feet hit the floor, before you reach for your phone, before your mind starts racing through the day's agenda, you have a precious window of possibility. This moment between sleep and activity is like soft clay. It can be shaped intentionally or left to harden into familiar patterns. Try beginning each day with what we might call a gratitude breath. Simply notice that you've been given another day of life, another opportunity to experience this mysterious gift of consciousness. You don't need to feel grateful for everything in your life, just for the fact that you're here, awake, capable of choice. This small recognition plants a seed of appreciation that can influence how you perceive everything that follows. Before getting out of bed, you might also set a gentle intention for the day. Not a rigid plan or impossible goal, but a simple quality you'd like to cultivate. Perhaps today, you'll practice patience with delays and interruptions. Maybe you'll focus on truly listening when people speak to you. Or you might commit to noticing beauty in ordinary moments throughout your day. This intention becomes like a thread weaving through your experiences, giving them coherence and purpose. As you move through your morning routine, experiment with presence rather than autopilot. Feel the water as you brush your teeth. Taste your breakfast instead of scrolling through news. Notice your body as you get dressed. These aren't additional tasks to add to your routine. They're ways of inhabiting the tasks you're already doing with greater awareness. Consider turning your shower into a brief meditation. Feel the temperature of the water. Notice how it sounds as it hits your skin. Appreciate the simple luxury of being clean and comfortable. Let the water wash away not just physical dirt, but also the mental residue from yesterday. Old worries, lingering resentments, anxiety about what's ahead. Step out feeling refreshed, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Your morning beverage becomes another opportunity for mindful practice. Whether you drink coffee, tea, or something else entirely, let this be a moment of pure appreciation. Notice the aroma. Feel the warmth of the cup in your hands. Taste the first sip, slowly and deliberately. This simple act of presence can anchor you in your body and in the current moment, setting a tone of awareness for everything that follows. When you step into your workday, you enter a perfect laboratory for practicing Buddhist principles. Your workplace likely contains every variety of human behavior: impatience, kindness, frustration, cooperation, competition, generosity. Each interaction offers an opportunity to practice what you've learned about letting go, staying present, and responding rather than reacting. Consider how you might apply conscious karma in your professional life. Every email you send plants seeds in someone's day. Will they be seeds of clarity or confusion, helpfulness or irritation? Every conversation you have influences the atmosphere around you. Are you contributing to stress and negativity, or are you offering calm presence and genuine attention? These choices matter not because you're trying to be perfect, but because they create the very environment you'll be working in. When you receive a challenging email or message, try pausing before responding. Take 3 conscious breaths and ask yourself, what response would be most skillful? Often, the first reaction that arises is defensive or reactive, while a slightly delayed response tends to be more thoughtful and constructive. This small practice of pausing can prevent countless conflicts and misunderstandings while building your reputation as someone who communicates with wisdom and care. During meetings and conferences, practice the art of listening without immediately formulating your response. Can you hear not just the words being spoken, but the emotions and needs underneath them? Can you ask questions that help clarify, rather than questions that prove your intelligence? Can you support good ideas regardless of who suggests them, letting go of the need to be right or to get credit? When conflicts arise at work, and they will, you can practice the art of responding from centeredness rather than reactivity. This doesn't mean becoming passive or allowing others to take advantage of you. It means taking a breath before speaking, asking yourself what response would be most skillful rather than most immediately satisfying. Sometimes skillful means setting a firm boundary. Sometimes it means asking questions to understand better. Sometimes it means simply listening without trying to solve everything. If you find yourself in a disagreement with a colleague, try to understand their perspective before defending your own. What pressures might they be facing that you're not aware of? What needs are they trying to meet through their position? This doesn't mean agreeing with them or abandoning your own viewpoint, but it creates space for more creative solutions that might address everyone's concerns. The practice of compassionate boundaries becomes especially important in professional settings. You can care about your colleagues' well-being without taking responsibility for their emotions. You can be helpful without being available for every crisis. You can be kind without saying yes to every request that depletes your energy. Learning to navigate these nuances with wisdom rather than guilt is one of the most practical applications of Buddhist teachings. When someone asks you to take on additional work or responsibility, practice the pause before automatically saying yes. Ask yourself honestly whether you have the capacity to do this well, without sacrificing your other commitments or your well-being. If the answer is no, practice saying so with kindness but clarity. You might say something like, "I appreciate you thinking of me for this project, and I don't have the bandwidth to give it the attention it deserves right now." Your commute to and from work offers another opportunity for practice. Instead of viewing travel time as lost time, you can use it for informal meditation. If you're driving, practice staying present with the experience of steering, breathing, observing the world around you. If you're on public transportation, experiment with loving-kindness meditation, silently wishing well-being for the strangers sharing your journey. During your commute, you might also practice patience as a form of training. When traffic is slow or your train is delayed, instead of feeling frustrated, use these moments as opportunities to cultivate equanimity. Remind yourself that impatience won't make things move faster, but it will make your experience more unpleasant. Practice accepting what you cannot control while staying alert to what you can influence: your breathing, your thoughts, your emotional response to circumstances. When you arrive home, the transition from work mode to personal life becomes another moment for conscious choice. Many people carry the stress and mental chatter of their workday into their evenings, contaminating their rest time with worries they can't actually resolve. Creating a simple ritual for releasing the day, perhaps taking 3 conscious breaths at your door, or spending a few minutes in silence before engaging with family, can help you be more present for the people and activities you care about most. You might develop a practice of mentally reviewing your workday as you travel home, acknowledging what went well and what you learned, then consciously setting that aside so you can be fully available for your evening. Imagine leaving work concerns in an imaginary container outside your home, knowing they'll be there tomorrow if you need to address them, but freeing yourself to be present with whatever comes next. Your relationships with family and friends become the most tender ground for practicing Buddhist wisdom. These are the people who know you best, who can trigger your deepest patterns, who see through your spiritual pretenses. They offer the most honest feedback about whether your practice is actually changing how you show up in the world. With loved ones, the practice of presence becomes especially precious. When your partner is sharing their day, are you truly listening or planning your response? When your children need attention, can you offer it wholeheartedly, or are you multitasking? When friends reach out for support, are you present with their experience or trying to fix their problems? Practice giving people the gift of your full attention during conversations. Put away devices, make eye contact, listen not just to their words, but to the feelings underneath. Often, people don't need advice as much as they need to feel heard and understood. Your presence becomes a form of love that costs nothing but means everything. Difficult conversations with people you care about provide perfect opportunities to practice the middle way between suppressing your needs and attacking theirs. You can be honest about your feelings without making others responsible for them. You can ask for what you need without demanding that others provide it. You can set boundaries without building walls. These skills develop gradually through patient practice, not through trying to get them right the first time. When tensions arise in your household, try speaking from your own experience rather than making judgments about others' behavior. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted." Instead of, "You're being unreasonable," try, "I'm having trouble understanding your perspective." This subtle shift in language often diffuses defensiveness and opens space for actual communication. As evening approaches, consider developing practices that help you wind down and reflect on the day. This might involve journaling about moments of gratitude, challenges that taught you something, or intentions for tomorrow. Or you might prefer a simple meditation, focusing on your breath and letting the day's experiences settle naturally. Before sleep, practice releasing the day completely. Whatever happened, whatever you accomplished or failed to accomplish, whatever you're worried about for tomorrow, let it all go as you prepare for rest. Trust that your mind and body know how to restore themselves during sleep, and that tomorrow will bring fresh energy and new possibilities. When challenges arise, and they will, you can use them as invitations to practice, rather than obstacles to your peace. The unexpected expense, the difficult diagnosis, the relationship conflict, the job uncertainty, these situations test whether your spiritual insights can weather real stress. This isn't about pretending to be grateful for difficulties or suppressing your natural responses to hardship. It's about remembering that your peace doesn't depend on everything going smoothly, and that you have resources for dealing with whatever arises. When facing a significant challenge, try breaking it down into what you can control and what you cannot. Focus your energy on the aspects within your influence, while practicing acceptance of what lies beyond your control. This isn't passive resignation, but active wisdom, choosing where to direct your limited resources for maximum effectiveness. One of the most important practices for sustaining this way of life is releasing perfectionism about your spiritual progress. You will have days when you forget everything you've learned and react from old patterns. You will catch yourself being impatient, judgmental, or defensive despite your best intentions. This doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. The practice is in noticing when you've strayed from your intentions and gently redirecting yourself without self-punishment. Think of your spiritual practice like learning to play a musical instrument. Some days your practice session will feel inspired and flowing. Other days, your fingers will feel clumsy and nothing will sound right. But consistency matters more than perfection. The person who practices for 15 minutes daily for a year will progress far more than someone who practices for 3 hours once a month. This brings us to something beautiful about walking this path. You don't have to walk it alone. Around the world, millions of people are exploring these same questions, practicing these same principles, navigating the same challenges of applying ancient wisdom to modern life. Finding community with others on similar journeys can provide encouragement, inspiration, and the kind of friendship that supports your deepest growth. Look for people in your daily life who share these values, even if they use different language to describe them. The coworker who remains calm under pressure, the neighbor who speaks kindly about everyone, the friend who listens without trying to solve your problems. These people are practicing wisdom, whether they call it Buddhist or not. You can learn from their examples and offer your own growing wisdom in return. If you feel drawn to deepen your understanding, consider exploring local meditation groups, philosophy, discussion circles, or online communities focused on mindful living. You might find guided meditations, Dharma talks, or books that speak to your particular questions and interests. But remember that the most profound teachings often come through your own direct experience rather than through accumulating more information. Share what you're learning with others, but do so through your actions more than your words. People are more likely to be inspired by your growing peace and kindness than by your explanations of Buddhist concepts. Let your life become your teaching, your presence become your gift to the world. As you continue this journey, be patient with yourself and trust the process. The changes that matter most happen gradually, often so subtly that you don't notice them until you look back and realize how much has shifted. One day, you might find that you no longer get as upset about things that used to ruin your entire day. You might notice that difficult people don't trigger you the way they once did. You might discover that you're naturally more generous, more patient, more present, without having to force these qualities. The path of awakening isn't a destination you reach, but a way of traveling through life. Every day offers fresh opportunities to practice letting go, staying present, acting with compassion, and choosing wisdom over reactivity. Some days will feel easier than others, and that's perfectly natural. If you take only one thing from this time we've spent together, let it be this: you already have everything you need for a life of greater peace, deeper love, and authentic freedom. These aren't distant goals requiring years of preparation. They're possibilities available in this very moment through the choices you make right now. The breath you're taking as you listen to these words is happening in the eternal present where all peace resides. The awareness that notices your thoughts is the same awareness that can choose which thoughts to follow. The heart that can feel compassion for others can learn to extend that same compassion to yourself. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you'll have another opportunity to practice what we've explored together. You don't have to remember everything perfectly or implement every suggestion immediately. Just choose one small way to bring more awareness, more kindness, or more peace into your day. Let that choice grow naturally into larger changes in its own time. The world needs people who are committed to waking up, to choosing love over fear, presence over distraction, wisdom over reactivity. By walking this path yourself, you become part of an ancient lineage of human beings dedicated to reducing suffering and increasing happiness for all beings. Your personal transformation ripples outward in ways you may never fully know, touching lives and creating positive change far beyond what you can see. As we come to the end of this particular journey together, take a moment to appreciate how far you've traveled. You've given yourself the gift of these hours, this attention, this openness to learning and growing. That willingness to show up for your own development is a form of love. Love for yourself, love for the people your growth will benefit, love for the world that needs your particular contribution. If this exploration has resonated with you, share where you're listening from in the comments below. Let others know which teaching spoke most deeply to you, which practice you're excited to try, or simply that you're grateful to be part of this global community of people committed to conscious living. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. May you find peace in the midst of life's inevitable changes. May you discover strength in gentleness, wisdom in simplicity, and joy in the ordinary moments that make up your days. May your practice bring benefit to yourself and all beings, creating ripples of compassion that extend far beyond what your eyes can see. And may you always remember that every moment offers a fresh beginning. Every breath is a chance to start again, and every choice is an opportunity to align your life more closely with what your heart knows to be true. The path continues with each step you take. Walk gently and know that you are never truly walking alone.